Enjoy. A quick thank you to the T5 peeps, Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, Dark Machine, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Feudic Jarl, and Casper Arnholtz. Thank you very much. Story number 1. The Space Engineers, written by SlowAD2584. Encyclopedia Galactica entry. Space Engineers. If you travel to subsector 23-AR of the Perseus Arm, outward of the Orion Spur, you can find them. They are rather hard to miss, inhabiting some 300 star systems. They call themselves engineers. They travel from world to world in a system, mining, refining, assembling subcomponents to make, well, anything really. Bases, fortresses, cars, trucks, atmospheric flyers, welder, grinder, worker ships, orbiters, space stations, jump ships, flight craft, raider cruisers, sky carriers, space carriers, jump carriers, asteroid bases, to name a few. Even the occasional mad contraption, or, as they refer to it, a clang machine. The star system they inhabit is abuzz with many unmanned ships and stations, wrecks and derelicts remnants of previous engineers. See below. Very few engineers themselves can be found, usually just one per system. This is by design. Yes, it is a system discussed below. Occasionally a star system may have several engineers active in it, and those are wildly active places, with engineers typically being hostile towards each other. Raids, plundering, outright wars between worlds, or over who controls an entire moon. Sometimes multiple engineers form factions and collaborate to build huge, grand things. The technology of these engineers is odd, roughly a tier 0.75 on the Kardashev scale. 1960s era spacesuits, 1990s style DeVault hand tools, etc. Weaponry no more than gunpowder-propelled handguns and ship-based Gatling guns, and high-explosive rocket launchers. There are some technology outliers, however, hinting that the lower tech of the personnel gear was design choice, not the best that could be achieved. The odd anachronistic tech are the jump drives and the artificial gravity generators. There is also a text communication system that appears to be FTL, instantaneous to all in system. This is all very interesting to be sure, but there is a dark secret hidden beneath it all. While the engineers appear to be humanoid form living entity, they are not. Inside their suits, they are actually automata, with minimal bioprinted biological components, little more than a brain in a bag with an artificial heart and lungs. The medbay they use is not for healing, it is for printing new automata engineers. The engineers do not themselves comprehend what they really are. They think they are real human beings, but they are the last remnant of a life form from planet Earth, lost long ago, and they are merely a cog in a vast self-replicating machine, a von-Neumann machine. The core process of this machine is medbay, engineer, assembler, medbay plus medbay plus medbay. Medbay prints out an engineer. It mines and refines and builds more assemblers, that makes more medbays, and so on. A good engineer can build several medbays before it expires, and all engineers do expire in a short time, typically 30 minutes to 4 hours each. Their bodies, spacesuits, gear, equipment are all purely temporary and expendable, simply made and cheaply constructed. This is part of the overall design. If engineers didn't expire, the nature and horror of a von Neumann machine means untold trillions of engineers would be swarming the galaxy if given a mere 1,000 years to build. We can thank the original builders for this inbuilt limitation. While the engineers are pale shadow of their former human selves, some interesting remnants of old human culture emerges in their behavior. Red versus blue mentality. Vague notions of national pride and fractionalization. Were the original humans tribal in some way? Certainly warlike. Sad LCDs can be found in abandoned shelters and outposts depicting home and Earth, badly pixelated, degraded over the apparent eons of duplication. When in groups of quasi-religious cult arises, naming the creator god, Clag, that brings ill-timed wreckage and ruin to the engineer's build, not due to degraded component design templates, or due to unwise operator builder error, but rather for a much simpler and universal answer for why anything just blows up. Because Clang hates you. All hail Clang! So there are remnants there, foggy notions of past humanity, but the truly sad thing is that the engineers think that they are real people. They seem to willfully ignore the facts staring them in the face. They don't eat and drink. They have all the same plastic face. They all need to sit in specifically designed chairs to recharge. Don't ask where the power plugs in. When they die, they respawn and assume that this is normal somehow. After they die, they can actually fly over and loot their previous corpse. Not creepy at all. This is a bit of a persistence and self-experience, where the engineer remembers past experiences and maintains a continuum of experience even in a newly printed body. But inevitably, these continuous experiences falter and fail. This is a mechanic that results in many unmanned derelicts to be found in subsequent newly printed engineers decades or centuries later. It is an unknown how long this has been going on, but it is a successful VulDwiin machine, and thus is a recursive process. By design, it will never truly end. There will always be a medbay somewhere, printing out one more engineer, continuing the exponential growth anew. The autopilot of the derelict ships also allows the engineers to spread to other star systems. The medbase, just waiting until a system is nearby to print out an engineer to start work. Another factor that drives interstellar travel is, in multiple engineering servers, there is an inmate trend for some to go hermit, setting up far from the planet, often already a good percentage away to another star. To date, an estimated 3,000 to 10,000 star systems have been industrialized by these engineers. The original purpose seems to be to build up a star system to have it ready for later colonization. A colonization that sadly never happened. It is a sad fate left to the engineers. Their home world, even star, may have died out by now. They don't realize it's their year 7 billion. They only know one thing. They must build. This borders on galactic charter violations of bioslavery and cruelty to sentient remnant. The Galactic Senate is unclear what to do with them. Some want to purge all engineers and medbays from every system to give the sentient remnants a final rest. Others want to curate them, protect and nurture them as orphans from a long-lost society and species. Yet others want to leave them in peace as a sort of VulDwiin preserve. Of course, there are problems with all of those, but the main problem is the same for all of them. There is no guarantee they got every single medbay, or that one didn't slip outside their cordon. It just takes a single one with enough goop in its tanks to make one single engineer, and it can all reawaken anew. Point of note, this is why VulDwiin machines are A, nearly impossible to design successfully, and B, extremely illegal, and C, near impossible to stop once set in motion. End of story. The Slow People, written by Ithilia. You never known a galaxy without humans. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? They are so ingrained in every part of life in the galaxy today. I haven't either, but it is my duty as a historian to know and tell you how it came to be. It was just 25 generations ago that our surveys first encountered their ships. You, of course, know about the history of your species. You know the achievements of your ancient scientists and luminaries, a chain of brilliant minds slowly chipping away at the secrets of the universe. You probably don't know the history of humans, do you? You'd be excused if you don't know about Isaac Newton, who invented calculus. He invented calculus so he could study motions of the heavens. You see, he also discovered the laws of motion and gravitation. He advanced optics, invented the first reflective telescope, and discovered a spectrum of light. He formulated law of heat transfer. He discovered fluid dynamics, invented methods of approximating roots and functions, and even implemented the most extensive currency reform his country had ever seen. I can see the disbelief in your faces. Any single one of these could be the culmination of an entire life's work of any of our brightest minds. I've not made an error. There is a verifiable historic record for him have done all of these things. And he was not alone. Another, Albert Einstein, discovered relativity, the photoelectric effect, and made numerous advances in statistical mechanics, particle theory, and quantum physics. The humans have estimated that Newton's intelligence quotient was 190. Einstein's IQ was 160. Harmonized with the galactic measure of intelligence, these two people would score slightly above average and slightly below average. Stop shaking your head. I know what you're thinking. Yes, that means that you are likely as smart as the smartest humans who have ever lived. In fact, almost every single human you've met would be classified as having a learning disability, if not outright moderate mental retardation by the standards of any of your worlds. How could a species like this ever have got to the stars, let alone become so ubiquitous that you'd be so hard-pressed to not bump into a human even in the most remotest of outposts? I hear you ask. Have you ever asked a human how old he was? No, of course you haven't. That would be a height of rudeness for you, be implying that they would be soon to die. I will have to be tactless now and reveal that I, myself, am 7 years old. I know, you don't have to say that I don't look that old, but the truth is that I'm already living on life extension treatment and will likely die within the year. Do you know what the human shipping clerk in the shuttle bay receiving, you know who I'm talking about, was doing when he was 10 standard years old, 7 of their years? He was barely learning the alphabet of his language. He didn't leave school until he was 21 years old. Yes, even the lowliest human shipping clerk has been in school for longer than any two of you will be alive. You see, humans are a slow people. They are the red dwarfs of the universe, dumb and dull. Yet, in the end, they will outshine all the bright giants combined, for the giants burn so bright that their lives are so mere flashes against the backdrop of their steady shine. Isaac Newton lived to 84 years, Albert Einstein 76, and with their current life extension treatments, Mr. Stevenson in receiving will most likely live to 120 years. What could you accomplish with 12 lifetimes? This is how the humans have inherited the galaxy. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.